Hey, and welcome back to JBC English Learning Academy. My name is Laura, and I'm here to guide you on your journey to clear, confident, and natural English. If you truly love your ma'am, then like the video, subscribe to the channel, keep watching the video, and comment on how much you love ma'am. Your support truly helps this channel grow. Alright, take a deep breath, relax, and let's begin today's session. In this story from JBC English Learning Academy, I want to take you back to one simple morning, a morning that looks a lot like yours, a morning that could happen anywhere in the world, because this story is not only about productivity or success, but about the gentle art of waking up with purpose, and I want to take you through it slowly, clearly, with simple English you can understand easily, so you can practice your listening and speaking while enjoying a warm, human story about real life. So imagine this. The sun has not fully risen yet, the sky is still soft and a little blue, and a small alarm clock sits on a wooden table next to a young man named Daniel. He is not special, not famous, not perfect. He is just someone who wants to change his life, someone who wants to feel more awake, more alive, more in control of his day. For many years, Daniel had a problem that many of us have. He woke up late, he woke up tired, he woke up in a rush, and every morning felt like a small battle he was losing. His mind felt slow, his thoughts felt heavy, and he always told himself he would change tomorrow. But tomorrow never came, not until one special morning. As he opened his eyes on that morning, he felt something different. It was not confidence. It was not motivation. It was simply curiosity. He asked himself, what if today I try something new? That simple question became the small spark at the beginning of a big change. When he looked around his quiet room, he noticed something he usually ignored: the silence. It was calm. It was gentle. It was a gift. For the first time in a long time, Daniel decided not to reach for his phone. He decided not to check messages, not to check social media, not to check anything. He simply breathed. Slowly, deeply. Once, twice, 3 times. And he felt a small moment of peace, a small moment of clarity, like the world was giving him time to wake up. And in that soft silence, something inside him whispered, "You can make this day different." He sat up on his bed, feeling his body waking up little by little. His back felt stiff, his shoulders felt tight, and his eyes still wanted to stay closed. But he smiled to himself, because even though waking up early felt difficult, it also felt good, like he was doing something kind for himself. In that moment, Daniel remembered a lesson he once heard from a mentor, a lesson he never understood until now. The mentor said, "Productivity does not begin with action. It begins with attention." And Daniel finally realized what that meant. Before you choose what to do, you must choose who you want to be today. This idea stayed with him as he stood up slowly and walked to the window. He opened the curtains, and for the first time in many months, he allowed the morning light to touch his face before anything else did. The light was soft and golden. It was quiet and warm. And when he saw it, he understood something important. Mornings are not enemies. They're invitations. Invitations to breathe, invitations to think, invitations to begin again. But this beautiful moment did not last long, because soon, doubt woke up inside him. In his mind, a little voice whispered, "You have tried this before. What makes today any different? You will stop again. You will fail again." That voice was not new. It followed him for years. And maybe you know this voice too, the voice of fear, the voice of old habits, the voice that tells you you cannot change. For a second, Daniel almost believed it. He almost crawled back into his warm bed. He almost let himself return to the familiar comfort of sleeping a little longer. But something inside him felt stronger than that voice today. Maybe it was the morning light. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was simply the feeling that he deserved a better life. So he whispered back to himself, "No. Today I'd try again." And with that small sentence, he began a new chapter. He walked to the bathroom to wash his face. The water was cold and fresh, and it woke him up in a way that coffee never could. As he looked at his reflection in the mirror, he did not see a hero or a perfect person. He saw a tired face, sleepy eyes, a little frustration, and a little hope. But he told himself, "You don't need to be perfect to begin. You just need to begin." This simple idea slowly became the foundation of his new morning routine. A routine not built on perfection, but on gentle progress. So he made a small decision. The first 10 minutes of every morning would belong to him and only him. Not to work. Not to the world. Not to stress. Only to himself. These 10 minutes would become his anchor, the place where he grounded himself before the day carried him away. And as he made this decision, he felt something he had not felt in a long time: control. Not over the world, not over life, but over himself. And that was enough. As Daniel walked back into his room, he felt the calm energy of the early morning. The soft light touched the books on his desk. The air felt different. The room felt bigger somehow. And he realized something important. When you wake up early, you do not only gain more time. You gain more space. Space for your thoughts. Space for your feelings. Space to listen to yourself. He sat down at the edge of his bed again and let his mind wander. He remembered all the mornings he wasted by rushing. He remembered the stress, the confusion, the pressure. He remembered starting every day like he was late for something. And he wondered why he allowed himself to live like that for so long. But instead of feeling guilty, he felt curious. Curiosity is a gentle teacher. It does not judge you. It invites you to explore. And so he explored a question that changed everything. What do I want my mornings to feel like? Not, what do I want to do? Not, what is the perfect routine? But simply, he wanted clarity. He wanted to start the day with a clear head instead of a heavy one. And suddenly, he realized that productivity was not about doing more. It was about being more present, more awake, more intentional. With this new understanding, Daniel began thinking about the steps he wanted to include in his new morning routine. Not a complicated routine, not a strict routine, but a simple one, gentle, slow, and realistic. Something he could follow even on the days when he didn't feel strong. He thought about stretching, about drinking a glass of water, about writing a small note to himself. And he felt a wave of hope because these actions were small enough for him to handle, but meaningful enough to change the direction of his day. As he continued thinking, he remembered something else, a moment from years ago, when he visited an older cousin who always woke up early. Daniel asked him once, "How do you do it? How do you wake up early every day?" The cousin smiled and said, "I do one thing. I try to give my morning a story." At the time, Daniel had no idea what that meant. But now, sitting in the quiet room, he understood. A story gives meaning, and meaning gives motivation. And so he asked himself, what story do I want my morning to tell? He wanted his morning to tell the story of a man who wakes up with purpose, not because he must, but because he wants to. A man who begins his day with calm. A man who gives himself the chance to grow a little every day. And so, as the morning continued to grow brighter, Daniel made a promise to himself. From now on, My morning will begin with attention, not reaction. With breath, not stress. With kindness, not pressure. But every story has a challenge, and Daniel's challenge came quickly. As he sat there, planning his new peaceful morning, he suddenly felt the familiar temptation. His phone vibrated. A message. A notification. A distraction. His brain reacted instantly. He wanted to grab it. He wanted to check it. He wanted that quick feeling of connection. But he stopped himself. He closed his eyes and took a breath. Then he said slowly, "Not yet. My morning belongs to me." This one small moment became a turning point. Because mornings are fragile. One small choice can break the calm. One small distraction can take away your focus. But Daniel protected his morning like it was something precious. And it was. When he opened his eyes again, he felt proud. Not because he achieved something big, but because he made one good choice. And good choices are the seeds of good days. He stood up, walked to his kitchen, and poured a simple glass of water. The water looked clear. It looked refreshing. He drank it slowly, feeling every sip wake up his body from the inside. And he thought, this is what a fresh start tastes like. As he placed the glass on the table, he felt a soft wave of gratitude. Gratitude for the quiet morning. Gratitude for the gentle light. Gratitude for the chance to begin again. And this gratitude became a warm emotion in his chest, something new in his morning, something healing. At that moment, he realized mornings are not about how quickly you move. They're about how deeply you connect with yourself. And as he understood this, something inside him softened. For years, he used to blame himself for being lazy, for being slow, for not keeping routines. But now he saw his mornings in a different way. He didn't fail because he was weak. He failed because he never created mornings that supported him. And now, for the first time, he was creating a morning that felt like a friend, not a fight. In that gentle realization, he felt a transformation starting inside him. It was not big. It was not dramatic. It was small and soft. But sometimes the smallest changes create the biggest results. He finished the water and walked back to his room with a small smile on his face. He felt prepared. He felt grounded. He felt like he was finally beginning a new chapter of his life. As the sun rose higher and the morning grew brighter, Daniel looked around his room and reflected on the journey of the past few minutes. He learned that change does not begin with big actions. It begins with small decisions. He learned that productivity is not about speed. It is about intention. And he learned that mornings are not obstacles. They are opportunities. His takeaway for the day was simple, clear, and powerful. When you wake up with purpose, the whole day changes. And with that, his new story began. In this second part of our story from JBC English Learning Academy, I want to take you deeper into Daniel's morning, into the soft, simple moments that slowly taught him something powerful about habits, change, and productivity. Because we often think productivity is about big actions, long plans, or strong discipline, but the truth, as Daniel discovered on this early morning, is that real productivity begins with something smaller, quieter, and much more personal. After drinking his glass of water, he walked back into the quiet hallway, and he felt something unusual. He felt awake. Not completely awake, not full of energy, not like a superhero or a morning champion, but awake in a gentle, peaceful way, awake in a way that made him feel present in his own life. And because he felt awake, he suddenly felt curious again. He thought to himself, if one small action can make me feel this good, what other small actions can help shape my morning? This question stayed with him as he slowly stretched his arms, rolled his shoulders, and let his body move with the early morning light. His movements were slow and simple, nothing dramatic, just stretching the tightness from his neck, the heaviness from his back, the stiffness from his legs. As he breathed in and out, he noticed something surprising. His stress was slowly melting. It was not disappearing, but it was softening, like a heavy blanket becoming lighter on his shoulders. And while stretching, he remembered something he once read in a book, a sentence he didn't understand at the time. The body teaches the mind. But now, in this soft, quiet moment, he finally understood that a calm body creates a calm mind, and a calm mind creates a productive morning. While moving, Daniel also remembered all the mornings when he jumped out of bed, rushed to get dressed, rushed to eat something, rushed to leave the house, and how this constant rushing created a feeling of pressure that stayed with him all day. But here, stretching slowly, he realized he didn't need to start with speed. He needed to start with space. A little space for his breath. A little space for his thoughts. A little space to simply begin the day as a human being, not a machine. After a few more stretches, he sat down on a small cushion near his bed and closed his eyes. He had never been the type of person who enjoyed meditation. He thought it was too slow, too boring, too quiet for his busy mind. But this time felt different because he wasn't trying to meditate perfectly. He wasn't trying to achieve enlightenment. He was simply trying to listen to himself. He breathed slowly. He breathed deeply. He let his thoughts come and go like small waves. He noticed the sound of the morning birds outside the window, the soft wind brushing against the glass, the quiet hum of the world waking up. And for the first time in a long time, he felt connected not to goals, not to tasks, but to life itself. In this calm stillness, a thought appeared. I deserve mornings like this. It was a gentle thought, almost like a whisper, but it felt important. So important that he stayed still for another minute, letting the idea settle inside him. When he opened his eyes, he felt a little lighter, a little clearer, a little more grounded. He didn't know it yet, but this feeling was the foundation of productivity, not speed, not pressure, but clarity. With this new calmness, Daniel walked into the kitchen and began preparing a simple breakfast. Nothing fancy. Just a small piece of fruit, a slice of bread, a warm cup of tea. He moved slowly. He focused on the smell, the warmth of the cup, the softness of the bread, and he noticed how peaceful these ordinary actions felt. He realized breakfast didn't need to be fast. It didn't need to be skipped. It didn't need to be eaten while rushing out the door. It could be a moment of comfort, a moment of calm preparation for the day. And while eating, he remembered a lesson from his grandmother, a woman who always woke up before the sun. She used to say, "If you feed your morning will feed your day." At the time, he thought she meant food. But now he understood that she meant something deeper, care. If you give your morning care, your whole day receives the energy from that care. After breakfast, Daniel sat at his small desk, opened a blank notebook, and wrote one sentence. What do I want my day to feel like? Not, what do I have to do? Not, what must I finish? Not, what are my responsibilities? But, what do I want to feel? He thought for a while, tapping the pen gently on the paper, and then wrote, I want to feel calm. I want to feel focused. I want to feel in control. Underneath that, he wrote one more line. What is one small action that will help me feel that way? And this question opened a door in his mind. Because productivity was no longer a mountain he had to climb. Productivity became a simple step, one small action that helped him feel the way he wanted to feel. So he chose one small action for the day, organizing his desk for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Nothing big. Nothing stressful. Nothing that required too much motivation. And when he made this decision, he felt something powerful: progress. Not the loud, dramatic kind of progress people show online, but the quiet, gentle kind of progress that builds real change over time. And as he wrote his plan, he realized something important: small actions are easier to start, easier to finish, and easier to repeat. And when you repeat small actions, they become habits. And habits shape who you become. In that moment, Daniel understood that productivity is not about doing everything at once. It is about choosing the right small things that move your life in the direction you want to go. After writing down his plan, he closed the notebook and took a deep breath. He felt ready. Not because he had a perfect routine. Not because he had strong discipline. Not because he felt excited. But because he felt present. He noticed the way the light filled the room now, brighter and warmer than before. He noticed the peaceful quiet. He noticed the way his thoughts were gentle instead of chaotic. And he realized he was building something important, a morning that supported him. But as always, every change brings a challenge. And Daniel's challenge arrived in a very familiar form: a loud, heavy thought inside his mind saying, "You won't keep this up. You'll go back to your old habits. You always do." This voice was old. It carried all of his past failures. All the times he tried and stopped. All the times he gave up. And for a moment, the voice felt strong. But then, something different happened. Instead of fighting the voice or believing it, Daniel simply listened to it. He let the voice say what it wanted to say. And after listening, he whispered to himself, "Maybe I won't be perfect, but I can try today." And that small sentence became his shield, his gentle strength, his reminder that progress does not require perfection. It only requires today. With this new realization, he stood up from his chair and began tidying his desk for 5 minutes. He organized the papers. He moved the books. He wiped the surface. He didn't rush. He didn't judge himself. He just moved calmly, following the quiet rhythm of his morning. And when the 5 minutes ended, he looked at his desk and felt something beautiful: accomplishment. Not because the desk was perfect. Not because he finished everything. But because he did what he said he would do. And that is the heart of confidence: keeping the promises you make to yourself, even the small ones. As he looked around his room, Daniel realized he was changing. Not dramatically. Not visibly. But internally. And internal change is the strongest kind, because it shapes how you think, how you feel, and how you show up in the world. The morning air felt brighter. His breath felt deeper. His mind felt clearer. And he felt something like hope rising inside him. Not big hope. Quiet hope. The kind that whispers, "You can do this." One small step at a time. Before leaving his room, he paused for a moment and reflected on everything he learned in just one morning. He learned that small habits matter. He learned that slow mornings create strong days. He learned that the way you begin your day shapes the way you live your life. But most importantly, he learned that he was capable of change, even gentle change, even small change, even slow change. And with this realization, he walked toward the door, ready to begin the rest of his day with calm, clarity, and purpose. His takeaway for the morning was simple and powerful: small habits shape big days. And with that understanding, his morning routine continued to grow. On the next morning, when the soft light gently entered Daniel's room, something unusual happened, something small but meaningful, something that showed him he was slowly becoming the person he wanted to be, because this time, when he opened his eyes, He did not feel the usual rush to go back to sleep, and he did not feel the heavy sense of resistance that usually pulled him down like a thick blanket. Instead, he felt a quiet moment of awareness, a moment when he remembered the calm he created. The day before, the simple habits he practiced, the gentle rhythm he followed, and that memory made him smile before he even sat up in bed. It wasn't a big smile, just a small one, but it came from a sincere place inside him, a place that felt thankful for the chance to begin again. So he stretched his arms slowly and whispered to himself, one day at a time, because he knew that change was not something you forced, it was something you repeated with care. When he sat up, he felt the same stiffness he felt yesterday, the same sleepiness, the same early morning heaviness, but instead of fighting it, he accepted it. He let himself breathe into it, and he reminded himself that mornings were not supposed to feel perfect, they were supposed to feel honest. And honesty was enough. He stood up, walked to the window, opened the curtains, and allowed the morning light to fill the room with warm, golden energy. This simple ritual already felt like a new beginning each day, a new invitation to refresh his thoughts. And as he stood there looking out the window at the quiet street below, he realized something he had never thought about before. Mornings were not only the start of the day, they were the start of his story. A story he could shape with intention. A story he could guide with small choices. A story he could live with meaning. With this peaceful awareness, he walked into the bathroom and washed his face again with cold, clear water. The water felt refreshing, like a message to his mind saying, "Wake up gently. You're safe. This day is yours." He smiled at his reflection in the mirror, and this time, the smile felt a little stronger, a little brighter, because he felt proud of himself for simply waking up early again. For some people, waking up early is easy. For others, like Daniel, it is a challenge, a deep challenge that takes patience and consistency. But for the first time, he realized something important. Each time you repeat a habit, it becomes a little easier. And each time you choose a small positive action, you create momentum. Momentum is the secret to building habits that last, because momentum carries you forward even when you feel tired, and momentum becomes your quiet strength. As he walked back into his room, Daniel felt that momentum growing inside him. He took a deep breath and stretched again, moving slowly, letting his body wake up naturally. He noticed how the movement felt more familiar today, less awkward, more comforting. And as he stretched, he let his thoughts wander gently through his mind. He thought about the past, about the mornings he used to waste, about the days he started with stress, and he felt a little sadness. But instead of letting the sadness fill him, he let it pass through him like a soft cloud floating across a large sky. Because he understood now that sadness was not a sign of failure, it was a sign of growth. When you grow, you sometimes look back and see how long you stayed the same. But that is not a reason to regret. It is a reason to move forward with more love for yourself. After stretching, he sat on the cushion again and closed his eyes for a short moment of quiet reflection. He listened to the birds outside, to the soft morning air, to the gentle silence in his home. And then he whispered a small intention for the day. Yesterday, he asked himself how he wanted to feel. Today, he asked himself what he wanted to focus on. He thought for a moment and then said softly, "I want to focus on moving with calm energy." That simple intention made his mind feel organized, clear, direct. Often, people think productivity starts with plans, tasks, schedules, and deadlines. But for Daniel, he learned that productivity begins with intention. Intention gives direction. Direction gives purpose. And purpose gives energy. When he opened his eyes again, he felt grounded, almost like his mind was aligned with his body, and his emotions were aligned with his thoughts. This feeling was new. It was gentle but strong, quiet but powerful. And he realized intention was not something complicated. It was simply a promise to yourself about how you want to move through your day. With that intention in his heart, he walked to the kitchen once again and began preparing his simple breakfast. He cut the fruit slowly. He toasted the bread lightly. He warmed the tea. And while doing these simple tasks, he let his mind enjoy the small sounds and sensations of the morning. The soft crackle of the toaster. The smooth sound of pouring tea. The warm steam rising from the cup. He noticed everything. And this awareness made him feel alive in a way he hadn't felt for a long time. While eating, he remembered something his friend once told him, something he didn't appreciate until now. His friend said, "The first moments of your day are not the time to rush. They are the time to prepare your mind for everything that will come." At the time, Daniel thought it was just a nice sentence. But now he understood deeply what it meant. Mornings are not about speed. They're about setting the tone for your day. And the tone you set in the morning shapes everything that follows. After breakfast, he returned to his notebook and opened it to a new page. Yesterday, he wrote about how he wanted to feel. Today, he continued his practice. He wrote at the top of the page, "What is the one small action that will help me build momentum today?" He thought for a moment, tapping his pen again gently on the paper. And then he wrote, "I will review my goals for 10 minutes. It wasn't a huge task. It wasn't a dramatic action that required a lot of energy. It was simple, gentle, realistic. And that made it powerful. Because small actions keep you moving. They stop your mind from getting stuck. They prevent the fear of big tasks from controlling your progress. And they build momentum without pressure." When he finished writing, he closed the notebook and took another calm breath. His body felt ready. His mind felt clear. His heart felt open. And he could feel his day beginning to take shape. But as always, the moment he felt ready, life tested him again. On the table, his phone buzzed. One message, then another, then a notification from social media. His mind wanted to react. His hand almost moved automatically toward the phone. But then he stopped himself. He closed his eyes and remembered his intention, move with calm energy. And so, he whispered to himself, "Not now. This moment is mine." The phone fell silent. And Daniel felt his strength growing. Not strength in a loud, powerful way. Strength in a gentle, controlled way. The kind of strength that comes from choosing what matters. And in that moment, his morning intention became real. Not just words. Not just ideas. But action. And action is where change truly begins. After this small victory, he sat at his desk and opened the notebook to review his goals. He didn't pressure himself to read everything perfectly. He didn't expect to finish everything. He simply read the goals with curiosity, not judgment. He asked himself, which one small step can I take today? And as he read, he felt something surprising. His goals did not feel as scary as before. They did not feel like giant mountains. They felt like a series of small paths, and he only needed to take one step today. Just one. This new way of thinking made him feel lighter, more capable, more motivated. And after 10 minutes, he closed the notebook and smiled. He learned that 10 minutes of clarity can save hours of confusion later in the day. He stood up from the desk and stretched again, feeling his energy rising slowly. He looked around his room, now filled with warm morning light, and he felt proud of the person he was becoming. He had not changed completely. He had not become perfect. But he was growing. He was learning. He was becoming more intentional. And intention, he realized, is the foundation of a life with direction. As he prepared to leave the room and step into the rest of his day, he paused for a moment and reflected again. He thought about his journey so far, about the simple habits he was building, about the calm mornings he was creating. And he realized something important. Momentum is not created by doing many things at once. Momentum grows when you do the right small things consistently. And that consistency becomes your quiet strength. Before leaving, he whispered his takeaway for the day. Intention creates direction. Direction creates momentum. And with that, he stepped into the rest of his day feeling ready, calm, and quietly powerful. On the third morning of Daniel's new journey, something interesting happened, something that showed him how quickly a routine can become a source of comfort, because when the light touched his eyelids and he slowly opened his eyes, he didn't feel lost or confused the way he used to. Instead, he felt a familiar calm, like a soft friend waiting quietly beside him, reminding him that mornings did not have to be a fight anymore. They could be gentle, peaceful, and full of small possibilities. He sat up slowly, stretching his arms as he looked around the quiet room, and for a moment he simply breathed, noticing the soft shadows, the quiet air, and the slow, natural rhythm of his body waking up. He whispered to himself, "I'm here. I'm awake. I'm ready." It wasn't excitement. It wasn't pressure. It was simply readiness, the kind that grows when you repeat small actions over time. He walked to the window and opened the curtains as he had done the past 2 mornings, and the light entered the room like a warm promise, reminder that every day begins with a new chance. But this morning felt different, because today, as he stood in the golden light, he knew he was going to face a challenge he had been avoiding for a long time: distraction. For years, distraction controlled Daniel's mornings. His phone, messages, social media, random thoughts, old worries, unfinished tasks, all of them fought for his attention the moment he woke up. And, because he always reacted without thinking, he lost control of his day before it even began. But now, with 2 days of gentle progress behind him, he felt ready to face this old enemy with new strength. Still, even with this readiness, he felt a little nervous. Distraction was familiar. It was easy. It was comfortable. And sometimes, it felt stronger than him. But he didn't let this fear stop him. He washed his face with cold water, letting the coolness clear his mind and wake up his focus. Then he stretched slowly, letting his muscles loosen and his breath deepen. And while stretching, he whispered, "Today I will protect my attention." It was a simple sentence, but saying it gave him a sense of control, like he was preparing for something important. After stretching, he sat on the cushion and closed his eyes, letting the morning quiet hold him. But today, unlike the past 2 mornings, his mind felt noisy. Thoughts rushed in faster, things he needed to do, things he forgot to do, messages he needed to reply to, random memories, random worries, a whole storm of thoughts moving inside his mind like fast wind. At first, he felt frustrated. The silence he enjoyed yesterday didn't come easily today. Instead of calm, he felt mental noise. Instead of stillness, he felt restlessness. But then he remembered something his older cousin once taught him. The mind is like the sky. Thoughts are like clouds. Don't chase them. Don't fight them. Just let them pass. So he breathed slowly and allowed the thoughts to flow. He didn't try to stop them. He didn't try to analyze them. He just watched them. Some thoughts were heavy. Some were meaningless. Some were old memories he didn't expect to see again. But as he let them pass, something interesting happened. His mind slowly began to slow down. The noise softened. The clouds thinned. And beneath all the thoughts, he felt a quiet space returning. Not a big space. Not a perfect space. But a space big enough for him to breathe. After a few minutes, he opened his eyes and felt calmer, more centered, more in control of himself. Not because he had a perfect meditation. Not because he controlled his thoughts. But because he didn't let his thoughts control him. That was the first victory of the morning. With this new quiet focus, he walked to the kitchen and prepared his simple breakfast once again. He moved slowly, intentionally, as if every action was part of a peaceful routine that helped him stay grounded. But today, unlike previous mornings, he noticed how easily his mind drifted. While cutting the fruit, he suddenly thought about work. While making tea, he thought about an old message he forgot to answer. While eating his toast, he thought about the long list of things he needed to finish in the next week. His mind was jumping everywhere like a small, restless bird. At first, he felt annoyed with himself. He wondered, why can't I focus today? I was doing so well. But then he remembered something important. Focus is not a permanent state. It is a skill. And like any skill, focus requires practice. So instead of judging himself, he smiled and said softly, "It's okay. Come back." And he brought his attention back to the taste of the fruit, the warmth of the tea, the quietness of the morning. And every time his mind wandered again, he gently guided it back without frustration. This gentle redirection became another small victory. After breakfast, Daniel sat at his desk with his notebook and opened it to a fresh page. He wrote at the top, "How do I want to use my attention today?" He stared at the question for a moment. It was a powerful question, more powerful than he expected. Because he realized something important. Attention is the most valuable thing he owns. Not money. Not time. Not resources. Attention. Whatever he gives his attention to grows. And whatever he takes his attention away from shrinks. With this realization, he wrote 3 simple intentions. I will not let my phone control my morning. I will focus on one task at a time. I will choose where my attention goes. These simple sentences made him feel strong, like he finally understood something he had been missing for years. But life always tests you when you learn something new. And Daniel's test came only a few seconds later. His phone buzzed again. One message. Another. A notification. Then another. His hand reacted instantly, reaching for the phone without thinking, almost like a habit he didn't control. But right before touching the screen, he stopped. He took a deep breath. He whispered, "My attention is mine." And he placed the phone face down on the table. He didn't turn it off completely. He didn't hide it. He simply told himself that he would choose when to look, instead of reacting automatically. And in that small moment, he felt a wave of quiet power. Because discipline is not about being strict. Discipline is about making a choice that supports the person you want to become. After this small but meaningful decision, he opened his notebook again and wrote his small action for the day: work deeply for 10 minutes. Only 10 minutes. Most people think deep focus requires hours. But Daniel understood now that 10 minutes is enough to train the mind, enough to build momentum, enough to create a habit. So he set a small timer, placed his phone far across the room, opened his laptop, and began working on a task he had been delaying for many days. At first, it felt uncomfortable. His mind wanted to wander. It wanted to check his phone. It wanted to think about something else. But he kept breathing slowly and returned to the task each time his mind drifted. And after a few minutes, something magical happened. He entered a small state of flow. Not a big one. Not a perfect one. But a gentle flow where his thoughts became focused, his eyes became steady, and his mind stopped resisting. When the 10 minutes ended, he felt proud, surprised, and a little emotional. Because it had been a long time since he allowed himself to focus deeply without interruption. And he learned something powerful. Focus grows when you give it space. He closed his laptop gently and leaned back in his chair, letting the quiet satisfaction fill him. For years, he believed he had a focus problem. But now he discovered that the problem was not his focus. The problem was his environment, his habits, his distractions, his lack of intention. And now he was changing all of that. Slowly, gently, consistently. After this quiet moment of victory, he reflected on his journey so far. He realized that distractions are not the enemy. Distractions only win when you forget your intention. He realized that focus is not about being perfect. Focus is about returning again and again to what matters. And he realized that attention is not something to protect once in a while. Attention is something to protect every day. Before leaving his room, he whispered his takeaway for the morning: "Where my attention goes, my life goes." And with that gentle understanding, he stepped toward the rest of his day, carrying his growing focus like a small flame inside him, a flame he would learn to protect one morning at a time. On the 4th morning of Daniel's new routine, something gentle but powerful began to unfold inside him, something he didn't expect, because when he woke up and sat quietly on the edge of his bed, he realized that mornings were no longer just physical moments for him. They were becoming emotional moments too, moments where he could feel his own heart more clearly than before, where he could understand his feelings instead of running away from them. And this realization surprised him in a warm, honest way. The sunlight was softer today, almost shy, and the room felt calm, as if it understood that today would be a different kind of morning, a morning of inner reflection. He stretched slowly, feeling the familiar stiffness in his shoulders, but this time, as he moved his body gently, he also paid attention to something else, the emotions sitting quietly inside him. He felt a mix of calmness, hope, and a strange emotion he could not name yet. Something like tenderness toward himself, something like gratitude, something like the early signs of healing. He walked to the window and opened the curtains, letting the light touch his face, and in that small moment, he felt something emotional rise inside him, almost like his heart was waking up with the same soft energy as the morning. He whispered softly, "Thank you," not to anyone in particular, not to the world, not to the light, but to himself, for trying, for continuing, for waking up again even when it wasn't easy. As he washed his face with cool water, he noticed how the coldness made him feel more alive, and as he looked at his reflection in the mirror, he didn't just see a tired man trying to change his habits. He saw someone who was beginning to understand himself more deeply. He saw a person who had been stressed for many years, a person who carried old worries, old memories, old disappointments, and he realized that part of becoming productive is not only about managing time, but also about managing emotions. After stretching, he sat on his cushion again, but this time he didn't close his eyes immediately. Instead, he sat still and allowed silence to settle inside him like a soft blanket. His mind wasn't too noisy today, and that surprised him. Instead of a storm of thoughts, he felt a quiet, almost emotional heaviness, the kind that comes when you finally slow down long enough to feel things you usually ignore. So he closed his eyes gently and breathed. In, out, slowly, deeply. And in that stillness, memories began to rise. Memories of mornings when he woke up heavy. Mornings when he felt lost. Mornings when he felt alone in his thoughts. And he felt a small ache in his chest, not painful, but tender, like the heart saying, "You are finally listening to me." He didn't push the feelings away. He didn't distract himself. He didn't judge himself. Instead, he let the emotions move through him like waves, soft, gentle, honest waves. And while breathing, he whispered quietly, "It's okay to feel." This was a big moment for Daniel, because for many years he believed emotions were something to hide, something to push aside, something that made him weak. But now, sitting here in the calm morning light, he learned something new. Emotional awareness is not weakness, it is wisdom. It helps you understand what you need. It helps you make better choices. It helps you approach your day with a clear, balanced heart. After sitting in silence for a few more minutes, he opened his eyes slowly. The room looked the same, but he felt different. Lighter, softer, more connected to himself. He stood up and walked to the kitchen to make breakfast, and while preparing his food, he noticed something surprising. The emotions he felt earlier were still there, but they didn't overwhelm him anymore. Instead, they felt like gentle companions walking beside him, reminding him that emotional health is part of a productive life. He cut the fruit slowly, poured his tea, toasted his bread, and with every simple action, he felt more grounded. Breakfast became a moment of emotional stability, a place where he could simply exist without pressure, without expectations, without rushing. While eating, he remembered a conversation he had many years ago with an old school teacher who once told him, "Before you learn anything new, slow down and listen to yourself." At the time, he didn't understand it. He thought learning was about pushing harder, studying more, working faster. But now, with the morning stillness around him, he finally understood that learning, especially learning how to live better, begins with listening. Listening to your body, your mind, your heart, your needs. And this listening creates emotional balance, the balance needed to focus, to grow, to make good decisions. After breakfast, he moved to his desk with his notebook. Today, he felt ready to write something deeper. He opened the notebook and wrote at the top of the page, "How am I feeling today?" It was such a simple question, but the moment he wrote it, he felt something shift inside him. Because he realized he almost never asked himself this question. He asked himself what he needed to do. He asked himself what he had to finish. He asked himself what other people needed from him. But he never asked himself how he felt. And this question opened a door to understanding. He wrote slowly, "I feel calm. I feel hopeful. I feel a little emotional. I feel proud." Then he paused. He tapped the pen gently against the page. And then he wrote something deeper. "I feel like I am finally taking care of myself." Seeing these words on the page made him breathe deeply, almost with relief. He didn't know how much he needed to acknowledge that simple truth. And now that he wrote it, his emotions felt more organized, more clear, more manageable. Then he wrote one more line. "What do I need today?" At first, he didn't know what to write. But then the answer came softly. I need a slow morning. I need calm energy. I need kindness toward myself. When he finished writing, he closed the notebook gently, almost like closing a chapter of a story he hadn't read before. Emotional reflection, he realized, was not about solving anything. It was about understanding. And understanding gives you control, not control over life, but control over how you respond to it. After this quiet reflection, he decided on his small action for the day. I will take 5 minutes to breathe deeply when I feel stressed. It wasn't a task. It wasn't a chore. It was care. A small, simple, emotional habit he could practice anytime during the day. And knowing he had this tool made him feel stronger, more prepared to face whatever challenges came his way. But like every morning, a challenge soon appeared. As he sat quietly in his room, preparing to leave for work, he suddenly felt a familiar old feeling rise inside him, pressure. A memory of a stressful work project returned to his mind, and for a moment he felt that old, heavy anxiety he used to feel every morning. His chest tightened. His breath shortened. His mind rushed into worry. But this time, something different happened. Instead of letting the anxiety control him, he recognized it. He named it. He said softly, "This is stress." And then he remembered the small action he had written in his notebook. So he closed his eyes and breathed deeply. In, out, slowly, calmly. And within seconds, the pressure softened. His chest relaxed. His breath steadied. The storm passed. And he whispered, "I'm okay." This small experience became a powerful lesson for him. Emotional balance is not about avoiding stress. It is about knowing how to return to calm. That is what mornings taught him. That is what reflection taught him. That is what listening taught him. After this quiet moment of emotional strength, he stood up and walked to his door. Before leaving, he looked around his room one more time, noticing the soft light, the open notebook, the smooth surface of his desk, and he felt grateful. Not for perfection, not for dramatic success, but for progress, for emotional clarity, for mornings that made him feel grounded, honest, and connected. He whispered his takeaway for the day: emotional balance begins with listening. And with that gentle understanding, he stepped into the world feeling centered, peaceful, and ready to carry his calm into everything he did. Thank you so much for joining today's lesson here at JBC English Learning Academy. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below telling me what you want to learn next. Your support helps the channel grow and helps me create more lessons for you. Take care, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next class.